heated conversation between the FCT minister Nyesom and the naval officer in Abuja has sparked a lot of nationwide debate, particularly, over the limits of authority between the civilian leaders and the military. And so that brings us to talk about, this clash of authority, looking at Nyesom altercation with military personnel. And we'll be having this conversation with Vivian Douglas. She's a media practitioner. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Actually, I am a media consultant. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, how would you interpret this encounter, looking at Nyesom and the naval officer in terms of, balance of authority and, just everything about it? How do you see it and how would you interpret it?
Okay, in a short sentence, it's totally uncalled for. It was not necessary, it's avoidable, it was uncalled for. There was absolutely no need for it. The reason is simple. There are several processes to manage such issues. The minister was in a position to address that. If he felt that, he wasn't being heard, there are avenues to do that, not in the public and not bringing media to that process. So everything about it was absolutely uncalled for.
Okay, so let's look at what does this incident actually reveal about the balance of power between the civilian authorities and the military in Nigeria.
Okay, so when we talk about the balance of power, every system is designed to function in a certain way. Every government system, democracy, autocracy, statistics, whatever kind of crazy you can think about, as a matter of fact, they all have their processes, their procedures through which things can be done. But you see, what is really going on here is the fact that Nigeria over time we have had politicians, use the same templates. The FCT, we don't do respect to our dear FCT minister, for instance. We don't do respect to him. He always used these templates, bullying, screaming, raising his voice, using the media when he wants to. So all of this, one way or the other, played out in what we saw. So he used the same template, hoping that he would get the same result. Now the point is that he failed to read the room. He failed to observe the times. He failed to understand what time we are in Nigeria and what is going on. Of course, he had come to be here to take it for granted, nothing is going on, the US inflation and all of that. We'll talk about that later. But the point is, we'll talk about balance of power. The average Nigerian politician didn't understand the concept of balance of power. For the average Nigerian politician, or even military officers, with all due respect to them as well, they primarily understand what to use power for, not how to balance power. So I don't think that is a conversation that the average public office holder in Nigeria is familiar with, and that is why it's a conversation we need to go back to the drawing table and begin to have. What exactly should we say? I'll give you a typical example. Someone, let me put this. Let me as an example, if you may. Someone, Barrister Ezeboyesowie, a live venture with the Nigerian Bar Association. A man who studied the law, who got a master's in political science, has been in public office for as long as we can remember. Barrister Ezeboyesowie is very much in a position to know how these things should work. He has worked with the military. We have had him in local tantrums when he was in Port Harcourt as the governor. He saw the military, talked to them anyhow. But that could be because the military also owns the touch on that back. No, that's because the military have also disrespected and disregarded them. That is why politicians can actually do whatever they want with them today. So let's bring this back to the reality on ground. But there's always a way to know the hierarchy of military office holders. And okay, look at the scenario. He was told that the land has been taken over by the former Iran. Now, you know this man, you have access to him. And then you sent your people, they got there, they made a mess of everything. And then you now came down with the media to show them who you are. Because they're used to doing that. So, okay, let's assume he didn't even understand what was going on. But as soon as he got there and saw the young, you can still call him young because biologically he's young, but Professionally, he is not young. He has put in more than 10 years in the military. That is a senior military officer. When by the way they got there, the first thing he has done is to introduce himself and ask the young man, the officer to introduce, let me also use the young man. Asked him to introduce himself. That would have actually, mitigated the whole charade that played out on Tuesday. So what he would have done immediately, he had given himself opportunity to know who he was speaking to, was to say, okay. That's when he would have called the defense minister, the chief of defense staff, to say, okay, this is what is going on. That was when he would have actually withdrawn from them. But no, because they are used to taking things for granted, taking us into their hand, they don't understand the concept of power, hierarchy, and administration. What should be is only when it interests them. And unfortunately, this particular incident didn't pan out well for him, and it's really sad. So the ideal politician or public office holders do not understand the concept of power balance or respect, or understanding that this power or these people, just like it is, define that position in trust on behalf of the FCT people, so to say, Nigerians. So he is supposed to be serving the people. He was given that position in trust. So when you see someone who is in position, you're not actually respecting as an individual. Of course, everyone deserves the respect, but you're actually respecting them, respecting the office and the position that they occupy. So when you speak to them, when you address them, you are addressing the position. And for instance, that's the military office, a senior military naval officer, lieutenant. So what you should have done is, in the Nigerian Navy, what you should have done is respect the over 200 million Nigerians who put that uniform on that officer. But of course, it failed to do that. This power balance means nothing to the average Nigerian politician.
Now, speaking of, you've mentioned the lack of understanding of hierarchy and power balance, and we see that some of the military officials, even the ex-generals and the likes, are saying that this incident threatens national security because it undermines the chain of command. And they are also requested that the FCT minister apologize to the naval officer for, the words that he said and the way his behavior towards him. There are a lot of responses from military, the defense headquarters, saying no officer or soldier will be unlawfully punished and all the like. So I would like to get your thoughts on this angle. Do you think that the naval officer deserves an apology from we? And, do you think that this is actually a threat on national security, just like they claim?
Okay, let's start on it being a threat to national security. So anyone who knows their own, who understands, any adult in Nigeria who uses the system, who reads the news or follows latest happening locally and internationally, one thing that should have been apparent to that person is that the time is now. Nigeria today is being watched by the whole world. All eyes are on Nigeria. Not because it wasn't there, but primarily because the most powerful government on earth, the United States government, is looking into Nigeria, the Nigerian genocide issue concerning Christians. And of course, they have even, the US president has even used a word like disgrace country to address. And we're not even able to defeat that. And let me tell you the most dangerous aspect of Nyesom Wike's action and its impact right now, why it is a national security threat, is this. If it cannot respect a uniformed military officer, if you can use the Nigerian police to threaten, to harass and embarrass a senior military officer, it means that everything that has been said about the lack in our security apparatus is nothing but the truth. The Nigerian military right now is at the verge of being subdued and being made a laughing stock before the whole world. And the reason is simple. Under their watch, thousands of Nigerians have been killed over the years. And this is not even about just 2025. The Dogonahoro case was unjust practice. It was of 5,000 Nigerians. There are several of these cases. I don't know if I'm getting the figures there, but the figures are out there. Now, anyone who is watching the news should know that this time is not when play games with the military, because their career, these people who are sitting at the Nigerian military right now, Their career, their history is about to be smeared forever if nothing is done, if they don't do anything to ensure that they situate Nigeria security-wise. So yes, Wike's attitude towards the Nigerian military shows what the world already knows of success, that our military do not have what it takes to secure Nigeria. And so, going back to you asking, because if you can harass the Nigerian military, do what you did with the police. I'm sure you saw the my police officer who was pushing the military around. Now, if he can do what he did before the whole world and using the media, he's basically saying, Nigeria, you don't have a military, you don't exist. If there's anything like military, it doesn't even exist. So anybody can do that to Nigerian military and get away with it. We are just basically told the United States of America, you are free to come in and invade Nigeria and take charge of our security because we can no longer protect ourselves. Because if an officer cannot be respected by a senior serving minister in Nigeria today, so who respects the military? So what Wike owes us an apology, owes the young military, the military officer, pardon me, I mean he's a young man, but a senior military officer. Whether Wike owes him an apology is not even supposed to be something he should be coerced into doing. If he has come to understand the predicament that Nigerian military is facing world over today. Because if they can sit here, the greatest military in Africa, they have gone to every war, they fought battles they've won. But if today, under a democratic spot republic, this military is being ridiculed before the whole world. And we are trying their best to see how they put things together and restore the name. A serving officer under the commander-in-chief of the armed forces walks up to a senior military officer, uses another security institution to harass them. So yes, by that action, he has told the whole world that Nigeria is not secured within its border and inside the country itself. And guess what? So Vice Nyesom, the FCT minister, owes the naval officer A.M. Yarima, Lieutenant A.M. Yarima, an apology, owes the military a public apology, owes Nigerians a public apology. But again, this is Niger. If we had a government that knew its onion, by now, the president of this country, he understands the situation that we are in, to be sitting like y'all can have another country come to take over our security to protect us, says that our sovereignty does not exist. So if President Tinubu understands that, by now, he ought to have called Vice Wike and maybe even do that apology even before Nigerians begin to ask for it. So yes, he owes 3 apologies. 1 to Lieutenant A.M. Yarima, 2 to Nigerian military as a whole and the security force, number 3 to the whole of Nigerians. And we are demanding that this apology should remain public. Otherwise, we have no choice but to say that, yeah, go on.
All right, Vivian, what way would you have thought that Wike would have handled this issue differently? How would you think, or which way do you think would have been best handling this issue? And also looking at other personnel, public officials and security agencies, what do they have to learn from these particular incidents that happened?
All right, thank you very much. Once again, I did hint on that, but let me quickly illustrate further on that. So, by the minister, got information that land that supposedly, according to his side of the story, belongs to the government, has been taken away by a former Vice Admiral of Nigerian Navy. Now, Vice Wike has access to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Vice Wike has access to the Chief of Defense Staff, which he called in that video. Vice Wike has access to his colleague, the Minister of Defense. All of these people, and even the President, they have access to Vice Admiral Gambo, who is said to own this land. Now, if the information of people gave you, you don't trust it, then it's not what you expect to get from them, or maybe it's not at all with what you need to do. There are procedures in government for crying out loud. Now, speaking of the respecting institution, it's simple. You write. You speak with your colleagues. If they are not fixing the situation, you write. And if you have written, or first of all, you investigate, if indeed this land does not belong to Vice Admiral our Gambo, then all you need to do is raise the alarm officially. There's several ways to do that. He has been in government for years, for crying out. That's the best thing he's done. So he failed to use the institutions of government. He failed to respect the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He failed to use these institutions. He failed to do what he should do. He chose instead to embarrass the whole of Nigeria, considering where we are right now. So there are several things he could have done and not to do it at the public eye.
Now, one more thing. There is this controversy about the officer being deployed as a guard to a private land interest. You know, an officer, you know, and it has been a form of argument as to who is supposed to be where and who should have done what. So I'd like to know, what do you think about that idea of a Nigerian naval officer being deployed to stand guard at a private land interest or private land matters that concerns civilian, or it's more of a civilian interest as opposed to the military?
I think there's a misconstrued element in this whole conversation of why Yerima is standing guard. No, he wasn't standing guard. Now, there's been an altercation, briefly mild altercation between the federal Abuja, the federal ministry, Federal Capital Territory Administration, and Vice Admiral Awa Gambo over that land. Now, if you follow the conversation, now, going there to see Lieutenant Yerima simply says that he is there under authority, not that he's keeping guard. Every military officer, whether serving or retired, senior military personnel basically, serving or retired, are assigned military personnel to work with them, whether as their PA or their personal assistant or special assistant. It depends what they are doing for them. The same thing with the Nigerian police, because I believe basically these things happen in government and military offices. Now this Lieutenant Yerima is serving as a military officer under Vice Admiral Awa Gambo. He is not there to protect the land. So if, for instance, I'm serving under the governor of Abia State, and there's something he needs me to go take care of for him somewhere, to go there to ensure that there are no invaders in his land, that doesn't mean that is my responsibility. So he is attached to work with Vice Admiral Awa Gambo, and that's why he's there. He is not there to protect the land. So if his boss, the person he's serving directly under, asks him to go and stay there at that moment to maybe over the altercation that they were having with the FCTA, then that's what it is. And remember that the FCT minister put a call across to the chief of defense staff. After he spoke with him, he gave the phone to Lieutenant Yerima, who also explained to the chief of defense staff what's going on. And the chief of defense staff addressed that he wasn't supposed to be there. The defense minister wouldn't have come out yesterday after the Federal Executive Council to addressing the media to say that Lieutenant AM Yerima did nothing wrong and they will protect their officers so long as they are doing what they are supposed to be doing. But he did nothing wrong. He was basically doing what he's supposed to. So military officers, civil military officers are assigned personnel who work with them. That's just basically why his boss asked him to go. That could be one of the assignments he needed someone in his position to take. And of course, he took care of that. So there is really nothing controversial about that.
Okay, so in the long term, how can Nigeria strengthen mechanisms in order to prevent the civil-military clashes over issues like this, to avoid further future altercations like this?
Okay, in the long term, we need to begin to readdress our national or civic environment. What should be and what should not be. I also like the fact, I don't know how authentic that video is, where I saw the IGP coming out to, because the kind of information kept on the SP Benjamin's unveil X handle yesterday, trying to make it look as if the IGP is in support of what the mobile police officers at Party FCT minister did. So I saw a video this morning. I don't know how authentic that we have or how recent it is, where he was basically saying that police officers are not meant to be used for land disputes and what have you. But I mean, I don't know if it's an AI thing. Anything can happen these days. But here is the thing. Government institutions and the democratic institutions and the military institution, every institution, as a matter of fact, need to come on board. I think we are also due to another critical national conference. These are some of the issues we need to begin to address. Who is a military officer? When you see a military officer without being told, you should realize that that person in that uniform represents the whole Nigerians. When you see a police officer, that's the person that should come to your mind. You are not just respecting them, you respect the uniform they are putting on. You also respect the fact that these are people who lay their life on the line to protect us. I am not saying that they're all perfect, that they're all without fault. No, that's what I'm saying. I'm rather saying that, first of all, we need to understand that we need to respect these individuals. Secondly, the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I hope, can get back to the drawing board. People have been calling for national conference, to dialogue on some of these issues. I think we're overripe for that. How do we need to do this and come up with an authentic communique, a communique that sends a message across board. And they should make sure that they get the media involved to also push this narrative right.
All right, Vivian. Our time is up, Vivian. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll have this conversation another time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, then. Our guest is Vivian Douglas, who is a media practitioner, and she joined us to have the conversation around these particular subject matter that happened on Tuesday, the clash of authority, and this is between Nyesom Wikes altercation with the military personnel. Of course, that conversation is going to be uploaded on our YouTube page, and you can always visit and also drop your comments and what you think about it in the comment section. We'll go on a short break and we will be back.